Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about the 1979 film Alien, directed by Ridley Scott. The movie is perfect. It's an absolutely perfect film from beginning to end. It's very much a genre film. Like it's a genre film. Like you can't get around the idea, you can't ignore the fact that it's people in space dealing with an alien, so it's 100% a genre film. But I would say, even though it's that, it can hold up against Casablanca, Lawrence of Arabia, Citizen Kane, you name it. But this movie is perfect from beginning to end. There's like a couple of shots that pull you out and remind you you're watching a film from 1979. But all in all, the movie is perfect. What I'm talking about is the scene with Ash. It's a big deal, it's a big reveal in the movie that the science officer on the ship is an android. He's holding Ripley down, and then the other character hits Ash with something heavy, and then like his head flips open, and then he's like torn in half, and there's like his white blood, milk blood, like shooting out. And Sigourney Weaver's character Ripley is like trying to like hold, like putting wires into the head of Ash and holding it up and setting it up. It's like there's a hard cut from the prosthetic to the actual Ash, the actor playing Ash's head, and it's too jarring. It's like it doesn't look good. What they could have done was shown her back and then her stepping away. They show her a little bit of frame and stepping away, but they should have showed her back completely and stepping away. And the reason why I'm saying that is because at the end of that scene, when they yank the cables out of Ash's head, that there is a cut like that where he's like, there's a scene where he has the white stuff coming out and he's talking in that whole scene. And then they cut to the yanking. You see the body blocking the head and pulling and yanking, and it's the prosthetic again. And that shot worked. So it leads you to believe that they could have opened with the same way where she picks it up and then the back covers it. Another reason why this film, Alien, is a horror movie, his innards are very organic. So it's very like creepy and gruesome. It's gruesome even though you're not looking at gore. You feel like you're looking at gore, but you're not really looking at gore because you're looking at like a robot. So there's no blood. Technically what you're looking at is like innards of like an android. Like you're not looking at like something that's supposed to be like the intestines or someone's lungs or heart. You're almost looking at this weird mechanical interpretation of a person's innards. But honestly, the character Ash was so well written, and like his reveal being an android was so well done, that I would make the argument that if Ridley Scott decided to make a movie where there was no alien, but instead it would be the android on the ship would malfunction and kill people, almost like a slasher movie in space, but still use that same concept of what Ash is. I think that would actually be that kind of movie. That movie would be. I think it would be a classic. I think it would be a classic horror film if it had the same atmosphere, the same tone, but instead you removed the xenomorph and you had Ash as an android malfunctioning and killing people on a ship. I think that would actually be a classic horror film. But of course, the xenomorph storyline is way cooler, and Alien is just cemented in cinematic history. So why would you want to change that? But the story with Ash just being the villain would have also made a really cool horror film. Another thing with Ash being an android is when you're watching the movie and it reveals he's an android, it makes you wonder, why are there humans on the ship in the first place? I mean, wouldn't it have been easier to just send a crew of androids to that planet and retrieve the aliens? Exactly what was their plan exactly? Were they planning on just getting a face hugger on a person and incubating them? or letting the alien come out? Did they fully understand the life cycle of it? And we're basing this strictly on thinking about the 1979 Alien. We're not bringing Prometheus into it, because if you bring Prometheus into it, they should understand the life cycle of it. So I don't know why Ash seemed like he misunderstood the cycle of how these xenomorphs worked, which I feel like if you would, in retrospect, if you would think about Prometheus and stitch it all together, that really wouldn't have happened. But anyway, ignore Prometheus, just look at the Alien movie as a whole in '79. It did make me wonder as to why there wasn't just a crew of all androids sent to that planet and just retrieve it. And the only thing I'm thinking as to why the corporation's intention was to get a face hugger on a person and have an egg put in, so they understood the cycle of the xenomorph a little better, or to a degree, because they know if a facehugger goes on an android, and it's just going to be a waste. They're going to try putting the egg into the chest of the android, and nothing's going to grow because it's not organic matter. So I think the plan was to get at least one crew member infected, or I guess have a facehugger attached to his head and be incubating that, and that would be the reason why they didn't. Wayland Industries didn't just send an entire ship full of androids there. The movie Alien is technically, yes, it's a sci-fi movie, it's a science fiction film, but it's technically a horror movie. It's built like a horror movie. It has people in some serious peril, the music is tense, the situations are all tense. It's a horror movie. It's just a sci-fi horror movie. It's a horror movie set in space. And so if you frame it as a horror film, it does some really interesting things. There are no jump scares in that movie. There's I don't think there are jump scares in that movie, in Alien, but there are certain moments that some people might find to be jump scares. Like, for example, when they're looking for the facehugger, it's already missing. After they were taking care of the crew member that had the facehugger on his face, they found out they realized it was missing, and so they go down into the medical area and they're looking around, and everything's quiet, and they're going through it, looking through, and a piece of equipment falls. It's very loud. It's a little jarring. Everyone jumps. Oh, I could see if someone's on the edge of their seat and doing that could be maybe a jump scare. I don't think the facehugger falling down is a jump scare, because you already kind of see the tail dangling and then it falls. So I don't view that as a jump scare. Another scare in the movie, and I view this as a scare and not a jump scare. There are two differences. A jump scare is something that just pops up and whoa, it's it simply is just there to shock you. And then a scare is something that isn't necessarily a jarring image that just comes into frame. What I'm talking about is the scene when Dallas is in the vents. He's in the ventilation shafts looking for the xenomorph, which, mind you, I just want to point out, technically, Dallas roundaboutly saved Ripley's life, because Ripley wanted to go in the vent, and Dallas wouldn't let her go in the vent. And Ripley was actually kind of annoyed by that. But he inadvertently saved her life by doing that. But anyway, so he's in the vent. There's that very tense scene where they're looking at the reading and they're seeing it, and it's moving closer and closer, and he's moving through, and it's moving closer, and then he's looking around, and then they're screaming, "It's right on you!" And then he looks, and there's nothing there, and he turns, and then there's that scene where and then it goes, like a little scream, and it kind of puts its hands up. I don't view that as a jump scare. I think that's a scare. That's just a reveal of a death of a character, and a reveal of just how serious this thing is. We've already saw it before. It already got someone else on the crew, on the spaceship, but it's not a jump scare. But some people might view that as a jump scare. Either way, this movie is a horror movie, and it doesn't necessarily fit the certain stereotypes that you would expect. And sometimes it has those stereotypes in the sense of like having these scares and these reveals, but it does everything about this movie so buttery smooth. You know, it's just such a perfect film that it just all just lays out in front of you, and you just sit back and you just watch it unfold, and it's just remarkably well put together. The atmosphere is what really is a key part of the film. You have a spaceship that the crew lives in, and the ship itself feels very lived in. Everything's worn, everything's used. It looks like an industrial spaceship that has been used a million times. There's even a house pet that lives on the ship. But yeah, but everything feels lived in and just has this really just realistic atmosphere to it, but also a spooky atmosphere to it. Everything's that obviously, because it was made in '79, you're not going to have like these like glass panels, like these flat LCDs or like LEDs and stuff like that. But so it's more analog. You have like screens and a lot of wires everywhere, and switches all over the place. But because it was made in '79, but it gives that realism of being like a real industrial ship, like in something that would be real in the future in space. Another thing is when they go to the planet is just spooky. It's a very uninhabitable planet that they're on. You know, it's the oxygen, it's not breathable. There's like a storm, like a windstorm always going, it looks like. So you have the analog video when they're walking out into the spaceship into the planet, when they're walking to the other ship, because that's where the beacon is. When they're walking to where the distress beacon is. So you have analog. So sort of like part of it is, I'm sure, it gives a sense of realism, but it also covers the seams because it was in '79, so you're not going to CG everything. So like how much of a set can you really have? And then like there's obviously miniatures that they built of that ship, like the two arcs and stuff, or the ring, half ring thing. And you're gonna cover up a lot of it with like kind of like bad reception, like an analog, like they're getting like a feed of video when they're walking there. Another thing is when they get down into the ship, H.R. Geiger's designs, which are very weird and organic and like elongated, that really kind of set like a spooky tone. It's kind of like a little bit of like feels like a haunted house, if you will. Also, Ridley Scott had children in the spacesuits, so they were smaller, so they made everything around them look bigger. So like when they're climbing up and they see the space jockey, they call it the space jockey then, but after, Ridley Scott fleshed it out with Prometheus, that was actually an architect. I guess that's what they're called, are architects. But so it made that thing look even bigger when they climb up and they look at it. And then when they're kind of like moving around there. But yeah, the whole thing has like this really realistic, spooky atmosphere. When they bring back the person who has the face hugger on it, everything just feels real. Everything feels heavy. Everything feels realistic. Nothing's floaty. Nothing's light. They don't easily get from one location to another. It takes time. Everything in that movie is incredibly realistic. As real as like an alien popping out of an egg and like hugging a person's face and laying an egg in their chest and then it bursting out and all that fun stuff. As realistic as that can be, it still feels very grounded. And I think that's one of the key reasons why this film is just great. It's absolutely amazing. Alien is perfect. It was a movie from 1979 and still holds up today to any movie that even it holds up to Romulus, which is at this point the latest film in the franchise. So if you've never seen Alien, if you were born after 1979 and you haven't seen it yet, be sure to check it out, watch it, because you won't regret it. The movie's timeless. It feels like it was made yesterday. In fact, I read somewhere there was a comparison to two movies that came out in 1979, and that was Alien, 1979, and the amazing film Dawn of the Dead came out in 1979. And for some reason, Dawn of the Dead is very dated. It is absolutely not a movie made today. You can watch it and you will know it's 100% a movie made in 1979. In fact, you might think it's older than 1979. The movie is amazing. Don't get me wrong. I love that movie. But that movie looks like it was made back in the 70s. Meanwhile, Alien looks like it's a movie made today. So go out and see it, stream it, rent it, whatever. Watch it. You will not regret it.